If you like the video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Welcome back, guys. As you can see, I have our old friend laying down here, ripped apart. And we're going to revisit solution for these pads. Now, I've gotten a hold of this company, and they were kind enough to send me some products to sample and review for you guys. The first one here, and as you can see, it's from MG Chemicals, and that's who I contacted. It's listed as total ground carbon conductive coating. Now, the keyword in this would be conductive. Now, this is the carbon one, which would be equivalent to what was on here at one point, the little black pads. Those are little carbon pads. So they sent me that one, and you can get 12 milliliters. I think this one's about 15 on Amazon. They sent me nickel conductive coating, which is probably a little better. That one's also about 15, I believe. They sent me silver coated copper, and this one's actually a water-based, so it should be a little less harmful than the other two. Yeah, there's may damage fertility or the unborn child. Very toxic to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. Yeah, definitely need to read safety data sheets, guys, or the back. And this one is silver conductive. Oh, and by the way, this one here, I think if you don't want a water base, you have to get a larger quantity. This one's about 25. And then this silver here, not water-based. Of course, these contain acetone and some other things that are flammable, so definitely don't want to be breathing this in. Don't want it near any sort of fires or sparks. And this one here is about 50, I think. These are all 12 milliliter. And I'm going to go over, we're going to apply some onto these pads, just using a brush. Now, if you are interested in any of this and you don't want to use a brush, if you look into the safety sheets and the application sheets, I've looked on their website. They give you a PDF on any of these. Tons of information in there. They tell you how to do it with, brushes. You can spray it. They tell you how to dilute it for your gun. They tell you a few different manufacturer guns, the pressure. Just tons of information in there, and I can't cover it all without spending about a few hours. But they do tell you to mix everything well, and they also tell you if you use a paint shaker, don't leave it on there too long. So what I plan to do is I will try to distribute this to where they all get fairly good use, except the start and select, because, well, there's two buttons. They don't really get used all that much. But we have L1, R2, well, L1, R2, R1, L1. You get the gist. The shoulder buttons. We're going to coat one kind of each, so there'll be one of the carbon, one of the nickel, one of the silver-coated copper. Wait, was that silver-coated copper? Yep, silver-coated copper. Okay, so we'll have a nickel, the silver coated copper, carbon, and we'll do that to each one. That way, let's say, this will have silver on, I don't know, up, but over here, silver will be on triangle. And what this is kind of doing is I don't want to just take one of these pads and apply each one to each and only have it in that area. And, I might only be hitting in certain games the X button a ton, whereas another game I'll hit the square a lot. Or in a direction, it may only use left and right primarily. So I figured the more the merrier, and it will give more controlled testing. Now all these have been cleaned and washed off, and I used a cotton swab like this with a little bit of acetone. I made sure to clean all these pads. First rule of painting is the results pretty well dependent on your prep. And in fact, I would say it's probably 90% prep when you're painting. So first up is our carbon. We'll just get one of the brushes. And definitely want to do this outside possibly. So there's a lot of fumes coming out of that. Okay. I think my pad's absorbing some, but this does have etching properties to it. So depending on the surface, it will probably etch a little bit. And from the information provided, this does a few different things. It's resistant to corrosion, rubbing, and I think peeling as well. Basically all the things that are kind of ideal for what we're doing. My painting here probably sucks with this brush. But that's kind of all we want, is just a thin layer. We don't want to go real thick or it won't cure right. And we may run into issues down the line. But this also keeps us within the tolerance of the original specifications for this button, whatever that may be. Whereas the aluminum tape probably exceeded that. Alright, so seal that up. And yeah, it doesn't really change appearance. So definitely got sort of a charcoal finish, as you would expect with carbon. Alright, next up is our nickel. Give that a good shake. Usually, anything that has metallic bits in it, say like metal flake paint or whatever, just about anything, I'd like to shake it upside down. Alright, I'll just grab one of these small brushes here again. And I think I'm going to go clockwise here. Try to push this out. And that's definitely a lot easier to tell that we just applied some. I have to say it. If you're familiar with painting, this is pretty much just like painting. There we go. That one I felt went a lot quicker. Now it didn't go super smooth. You would get a lot smoother using a spray. I don't think it's really going to affect us all too much since we're going to be applying pressure. But I do try to get as good as I can. And when it cures, that moisture will get out of there and it should come down a little bit. But so far it's looking really good, really simple. Now I know this might, if everything works out as well as it should, this might be the perfect thing for any of you guys that own a 5200 Atari. Because those controllers, admittedly, are somewhere in the top 10 of worst controllers ever. And I know that's one of the biggest things, is they're finicky for their button pushes. But that's really the least of their problems. Ooh, I like the color of this one. This is our silver-coated copper. We don't want a lot, just enough. Use that back out. That actually makes a really nice color. Unfortunately, it'd be a little expensive to paint a car in this. Alright, that dude was done, so very little bit here. I don't really recommend handling these pads this way, but kinda gotta do what I need to. Alright, so that's 3 of the 4, and this one's actually the water base. I need to read up on this one. I don't think it has any etching material in it, but that's what we're gonna find out. And the silver. Keep in mind, even on the silver, you think, you know, $50 for 12 milliliters, that's about $4 a milliliter. And you may think, gosh, that's crazy expensive for something like this. But when you think about it, think about how little we're actually using to get this accomplished. And if you do it all the time and it works out great, it might be worth it. And as long as you store this right, it says it has a shelf life of 3 years. It could probably go a little longer. It's guaranteed to be good for 3 years under proper storage conditions. Alright, last pad to do. We got silver. Nice thin coats. That guy looks good. This one was our last one. Bam. Simple as that. Close it up because we don't want to breathe any of these. Especially the ones that aren't water-based. If you look on the back, highly flammable liquid and vapor, causes serious eye irritation, may cause drowsiness or dizziness, very toxic to aquatic life. And a lot of the same information. And mind you, this stuff seems to be cutting the mustard. And to make sure we have no foreign object damage, such as dust or hair particle. I'm actually going to set that little out here to its own, and I have a box to cover that so nothing falls into our beautiful painting there. Now, as you can probably see here, this is called Super Shield, whereas the carbon was Total Ground, and this is actually, I think, intended to give you a grounding surface, whereas these here, the Super Shields, while they are conductive, as they do state, you can shield with these, such as the RF shielding found in a system that I completely removed from that PlayStation we worked on. Had I felt a real need to shield that, let's say this is our case, we can pop our case up, cover all the inside with that, pop it down, and we're shielded. And the only I've looked around for reviews on this, and the only stuff I've found was for guitars. Now, I don't claim to know hardly anything about guitars, but I guess if they are a little bit noisy and getting interference, this stuff does great. Specifically the nickel, because it's the cheapest of the super shields that I know of. And everywhere I read said you need about 2 of these, and you can shield your guitar from interference. And they claim it works great. Otherwise, for this stuff, I have no idea. So that's what we're going to find out. So it doesn't look like I will actually require the 24 hours, but I'm going to do everything as instructed in the information from their website. And these are going to get 24 hours. I'm actually going to take note of the time, and if I can't finish this off at the 24-hour mark, then it's going to get a little longer. But we will get all that done, and then I will go over, I think last time I said Vaseline and vegetable glycerin for the, there's actually another method that's recommended, at least by Toyota that I know of, for treating rubber, which will clean it and soften it, and it actually expands a little bit. But for now, I'm going to let this settle, and we'll go over that when I put everything back together. So let's give this a day or so and see where we're at. Alright, I said we'll be back in 24 hours. I lied. I'm actually, this looks like it used silver. I just realized that I was holding everything far too close, and you couldn't really see how good everything applied. So it's a good thing I left this guy to the side. We're just going to do the silver because they all apply really well. So I'm just going to do a quick demo. Probably a little too much, but as you can see, it applies really nice on these pads. Keep in mind these were prepped well and cleaned. Oops. Got a little off to the side, but it should be okay. It says it etches into materials that are compatible with etching. And it's good against corrosion and rubbing and peeling, so we should be good. Super thin little coat there. Same with over here. Maybe just a touch more. And that's it. And as you can see, it's already trying to flash off, which, if you're unaware, the flash point, or not flash point, the flash off time and the cure time are two different things. Flash off time, could be 5 to 15 minutes, and that's basically when something like the acetone or the solvents, when those flash off, and you can apply a second coat and it'll bond correctly. Cure time is when it's ready for the road, ready for use. And, it's been a couple minutes. And you can probably see, I'll try to get some light. The silver coated copper there, I don't know if the camera is going to pick that up too well. Really nice look to it. So if you are using this for shielding in a system, definitely consider that. If you're wanting some functionality with looks and you leave the RF shields inside the system, definitely consider coating those with that. And I'm going to call this part 1, and we'll be back for the conclusion, which should be a lot shorter.